Hey everybody, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Ready to Die Fighting. I'm Chris, and today I want to address a question that a viewer sent to me. Actually, it was a series of questions. Name was, I think, Tri-Rail Productions 83, I believe, or something close to it. And they asked a series of questions about chokes and choking and like what does it feel like or what's it like being choked? Have you ever been choked out? Which I assume they mean like choking till you like pass out. Um, and just kind of questions like that. Um, and so I'm going to try my best to answer. I think it's an interesting topic. Oh, and I think the other important question was, should you get choked out in training? And so that one I definitely want to answer. So if you enjoy my videos and you want to know what's going on, an answer to this question, please like and subscribe. So that being said, so in jiu-jitsu, so I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu from 10th Planet, so we are no gi, meaning you just kind of wrestle each other in those little tight-fitting shirts, as opposed to the little, like, karate pajamas. It's a gi. And so we have, most of our chokes kind of fall into two camps. Vast majority of them are blood chokes, but there's also like airway chokes. So airway choke is when you're getting like right here, and you press down on that, voice immediately changes, it cut off your air, and you can't breathe, and you pass out and eventually die. That's one choke. And the other choke is going on the sides, and you're cutting off the blood supply. Those I can't think of what they're called, but the arteries that go to your brain. And so you're not getting blood in your head, and your brain needs blood. It needs blood more than it needs air. And you can pass out and die very, very quickly. So in jiu-jitsu, we prefer blood chokes because it's fast. Literally seconds. A person can pass out, and a few seconds after that, they're dead. So that's what we use a lot. I was actually talking to my coach the other day, is because I asked him, like, and every now and then I'll ask, like, is this a blood choke or an air choke? Just because I want to know what I should be expecting when someone's doing the choke on me, and if I'm doing the choke on someone else, like, how, like, where I should be targeting, or, sometimes it's obvious, but sometimes it's not. I'm like, and I asked. And so I asked him, like, do we have any air chokes? It seems like all of our chokes are blood chokes. And he's like, yeah, basically just one. He showed me one. So the majority of our chokes are blood chokes because they are more effective. So what you do in jiu-jitsu is we do these chokes. We also have joint manipulations where you potentially break an arm or leg or wrist or whatever. But before that happens, you tap. You tap either on the person or the mat, snap your fingers, you say tap, something to let the person know that they are doing the technique correctly. And if they continue that technique, you're either going to die or something's going to break. That's what tapping is. Or it could mean, just let go realistically. Because sometimes I've tapped and I'm not, they're not doing this technique correctly or anything. But, sometimes I'll just tap because maybe it's uncomfortable, or it feels like they don't have it and they're not going to get it. And so, like, just tap, restart. Or sometimes I've definitely tapped, and this is something I'm doing more, that I have more experience, but when I first started, I would try to fight a choke as long as I possibly could. Like, if they didn't really have it, I wasn't going to tap, however long it took. I was going to make them work to get it. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One being, I wanted to practice being in those tough situations where someone is actively trying to choke me, and like, I want to keep trying to get out of it. I want to learn to kind of control that panic reflexes. And many, many of the guys are bigger than me. And it is mostly guys who I'm working with. So having potentially a big guy trying his best to choke me, and to not panic and to keep fighting and just, try to remember the techniques of how you get out of this and experiment and figure it out. And so I would delay tapping until I absolutely had to tap. Also, there's, probably some ego and stuff in there as well. But as I've gotten better and more experienced, I find that I'll tap more quickly because a lot of our rolls, and rolls is just like the equivalent of sparring, you're practicing, you're going live, trying to do these just fighting, basically. They're usually timed, and you might only have 5 minutes. And if the person is pretty close, and sometimes I'm like, I might be able to get out, maybe I can't, they're pretty close, I could delay this tap for another minute before, but that's just wasting my time. That's wasting both of our times, I kind of think, just to sit here and it's like, nope, you still don't have it, and just keep trying to make a little bit of space and just barely breathe. I'm just like, close enough. I'll just tap and be done with it and reset, and we'll start over and keep going. And that way I'm getting more practice and more training. So you tap for a few different reasons. But that being said, I think it really is important to not tap too soon. And that's because I think it is really important to know what your limitations are. We were working on arm bars not too long ago. And, some people are just more flexible than others. And you won't know that until you try it. So if you're doing an arm bar and you tap right here and every time before it even gets close, you'll never learn that maybe your elbow hyperextends more than average, and maybe you don't need to tap right here. Maybe that might give you more opportunity to have more escapes and more success rates. And on the other side, it gives your training partner opportunities to make sure that they are doing the technique right. I try not to tap unless it feels like they're doing the technique right, because I feel like that's being a bad training partner, making you think that you're doing the right thing and then, you're not. It was like, sorry, that didn't work. I tapped anyway just because I didn't like it or because you were close. I like to make sure they're doing it right. As long as you're doing it right, even if I, don't necessarily feel like I have to tap just yet, I might just tap anyway because it's like, well, you're close, you're doing it right. This is the right thing. I just don't want to risk any type of injury because there's always a risk. But I think it's really important to know that. That's one of the things I really love about jiu-jitsu is it puts you right in the danger zone. There are a lot of people who, myself included, don't like being choked. They kind of freak out when someone puts their hands on your neck. Like, that's a pretty normal reaction, I think. But if you do something like jiu-jitsu, you're getting choked. And say an hour class, if we're working on chokes that day, and, we're not always, sometimes we're working on breaking elbows or knees or ankles instead. But if we're working on chokes, over the course of an hour, you could get choked 20, 30 times in an hour. That might be a lot. I don't know. I've never counted, honestly. But depending on what the technique is that we're working, we alternate back and forth. And you can do them pretty quickly over the course of an hour. Do one a minute, 1 or 2 a minute. That's, maybe. So I think it's you get used to it. You get used to it. You get to know what it feels like. You get to know when you're in the danger zone because a lot of these chokes, you have to get them right. There's definitely been times where someone is squeezing. I can feel them shaking. They're squeezing so hard, but they're not in quite the right place. And I can breathe just fine. Blood supply is going to my head. It's uncomfortable. It might even be painful. It might be awkward. Maybe they stink. I don't like it, but I'm not dead. I'm not dying. I could stay there for a really long time and be just fine. And all they're doing is wearing their arms out. And I think that's really good from like a survival mindset to be able to build that, like that mental strength so that you don't panic, so you can think clearly and know the difference of like, oh, this is scary and oh crap, I'm about to die. There's a big difference. If it's just, this is kind of scary, you can keep fighting and you can keep fighting intelligently. You want to delay panic as long as possible because panic doesn't generally help you. When you panic, you're not being smart. To me, that's what panic is. You're no longer thinking clearly. You're no longer thinking strategically. You're no longer intelligently defending yourself once you get to panic. Now, realistically, once the air supply cuts off, especially the blood supply, once that cuts off, It is panic. I mean, it just is, because you have seconds and it feels horrible. It feels terrible. Cutting off air, you can fight. I'll fight through not being able to breathe with the hopes that maybe they'll slip up a little bit. And because, you know, you can get a little bit of air in either, you can still keep fighting. Hold it. I mean, I can hold my breath. Even that little bit, I would not wait. Once I feel blood supply cut off in my head, I don't wait that long. Not even a kind of. As soon as I feel it, I tap. You really don't even have a choice. It feels horrific. It's almost like I don't know how to describe it. To me, it kind of feels like my head is it's like your whole head immediately. Like, to me, it kind of feels like pressure. I think kind of feels like my head's going to explode or something. Kind of. It's hard to. It's hard to describe. It's a unique feeling. It doesn't feel like anything else. Holding my breath, even if it's somebody who's, you know, doing that, like, that's uncomfortable. And sometimes I do worry. It's like, oh man, is my trachea gonna, you know, collapse or something like that if they're like really strong? But air supply getting cut off isn't that big of a deal. You can fight it for a while. Just kind of sucks. But the other thing about blood chokes is, you know, there's a misconception that if you can talk, then you can breathe. And if you can breathe, then you're fine. You know, I'm thinking of, you know, certain police encounters where, you know, people are choked and they end up dying. And this is why I firmly believe that every single police officer needs to get to it, at least like a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. Because we know that that is not true. Blood choke, you can breathe. You can talk. I mean, you're probably not going to have a conversation, but you can breathe and you can talk with a blood choke. And then you're dead a few seconds later. They're extremely deadly. And you can talk and you can breathe. It's still a choke. Cut off the air supply, it gets hard to talk. That sounds funny. Really fast. Cut off the blood supply. I mean, I can squeeze here. And I'm not quite cutting off. It's hard to do it to yourself. I feel it a little bit. I don't quite have it, but you can see it. Oh, yeah, I feel it right there. As soon as I mean, and that wasn't even good, but I was talking the entire time. Right, I'm starting to feel it a little bit. At this point, if I were grappling with someone, I probably would just go ahead and tap. I feel it close enough, but it's not completely cut off. But you can see I was still talking. I was still breathing. I maybe sounded a little bit funny, but yeah, it's it doesn't feel good. So I kind of wanted to address that. And then lastly, he asked, you know, I'm assuming it's a he. I actually don't know. He, she, they, whatever. They asked, should you get choked out during training? No. No, no, no. That is not necessary. Get close to getting choked out. Learn what your limitations are. Let your partners learn how to get the technique close and what it looks like when someone's close. You know, we're all doing this for educational purposes. There is no reason to, certainly not intentionally, get choked out. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a little over 2 years now. Before that, I was doing Krav Maga, where we did some grappling, not a ton, but we also worked on a lot of chokes in Krav Maga. I shouldn't say a lot, but some chokes in Krav Maga. I have never blacked out. I've never seen anyone black out. I heard about one guy, one of our purple belts was telling us a while back about how, I'm not sure what the circumstances were. I think maybe someone caught him by surprise, or I'm not sure what, but he said he got choked out once. And the way he described it, he said when he woke up, he had no idea where he was or how he got there or what had happened. He said in his memory, it was like I think he said he was driving in his truck with his dog going wherever. And that was the last thing he knew. And then he just kind of like snapped to. Like he said he was just driving and then he was just in the gym and everybody staring at him and, you know, fanning him and like, you know, are you okay? Wake up, wake up. And he's like, how did I get here? What is going on? He had no clue. And so, you know, we all kind of laughed about it and whatnot. But that was a dangerous situation to be in. And that's not necessarily, that's not normal. If you're training at a gym where people are getting choked out all the time, you need to find a new gym. That's not necessary to learn that at all. No, you don't have to do that. Yeah, that's just dangerous. That's not healthy. You're taking a huge risk with your body and your brain. I mean, you can start losing brain cells and all that, and you really are at death's door when you get to that point. So no, don't do that. I think that was all the questions that he had. What does it feel like? Is it okay to get choked out during training? What is choking? Yeah. If you got any other questions about choking, please leave them down in the comments if there's something I missed or I wasn't completely clear on. Hope you enjoyed this video and that it was informative for you. If so, excuse me, like it and share with your friends. And of course, subscribe. And I will catch you in the next video.